Let's see. Carl Korn is with NYSUT. When do you think the governor, I'll give you a chance to win our pool here, is going to come to town and announce that they're not going to use any testing? No testing will be involved with the teacher assessment. When do you think that's going to happen?
Well, I don't know that that's going to happen, but we do have state tests coming beginning on Tuesday, and that is a source of concern for a great many teachers and parents around the state.
So you guys, NYSUT, unlike United Federation of Teachers, you guys have come out to say, opt out. We are asking for parents to do a mass opt out of the testing.
Well, testing should have a purpose. When teachers give tests, when classroom teachers give tests, those tests are designed to help diagnose student learning and help inform instruction. In other words, to better help teachers reflect on what they're doing in the classroom to help kids. The state tests don't do anything to help students, don't do anything to help parents, have only marginal use for the system as a whole, and really the high-stakes nature of the state standardized testing has narrowed the curriculum and is sucking the creativity out of teaching and learning. And many parents have decided to opt out. And, we have been clear that when a parent makes a decision in the best interest of their children, and if that decision is to opt out of the state test or, frankly, to decide to have the child take the test. But when a parent makes that decision, teachers are going to support that decision 100%. And we call on school districts to respect that.
Carl, isn't it, though, the fact, though, that you're really, it's not just that simple. This is more about the assessment than really anything else. And it is debatable whether these tests show anything, whether they're good for our children, whether they're age appropriate. That is all very debatable. There's somebody on the other side saying that it is. And imagine if in every industry, the employees, we could all just step up and say, I don't like that, I don't like that, and I don't like that, and we're not going to do it. As a matter of fact, we're going to go out and tell our customers that they shouldn't do it. I mean, isn't that insubordination? Aren't teachers potentially put in a position where they could get themselves in some deep trouble here? Boards of education as well.
Well, you've thrown out about five different issues there, and they're all good issues. So let me start one at a time here, okay? The Common Core is a set of standards, and I think everybody acknowledges that there are problems with the Common Core. Certainly the implementation of the Common Core in New York was botched, to say it kindly.
Yeah.
And there's still a great deal of work to be done on standards in New York. And whether or not the Common Core will ever get to the point where they're accepted by parents and teachers is a great unknown. What we do know is that state standardized testing, the parents don't get the results back of their students' tests until September, August or September. And even then, they get a one-page sort of snap sheet that gives very limited information. So these state tests are of limited use to parents. They're used for high-stakes decisions and for purposes they were never designed for. Remember, these tests were designed to measure student learning. There's absolutely no credible research to show that state tests can be used reliably, accurately, or with any validity for teacher evaluation.
Carl, just because we have a limit,
they're being used for a purpose they were never designed.
I understand, but I want to take a point off your point here. Where was NYSUT with opt out when this had nothing to do with teacher evaluation? I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. This is all about teacher evaluation, not about whether the tests are good for children or if they're age appropriate. This is about one thing. It's about the governor wants to use these tests to evaluate teachers. Shouldn't we just make that the argument? Because that's what NYSUT's argument is. It's not about the parents and the children. It's about teachers being evaluated based on test scores.
I think what you're doing is you're conflating two topics. First of all, New York.
Well, then answer my question then. Here, I'd like just an answer of the question. Where was NYSUT when teacher evaluations were not tied to the testing? Why haven't you been protesting the testing all along?
Well, actually, we have.
But you've never been like this. There's never been an opt-out where you're actually encouraging teachers to talk to parents to opt out. It's never been like this before.
Actually, last year, more than 60,000 parents opted out.
That's not That's not what I said, though. What I said is I've never seen NYSUT do a robocall to ask parents and teachers to opt out. This is a new ball game, and it's over one thing. I don't think we should muddle up the waters here. Muddy up the waters.
Or muddle, either one. I think NYSUT has always been speaking out against the inappropriate state testing and the misuse of state testing. So I think you're mistaken to say this is just a one-time thing happening this year. I know going back several years now, we have spoken out, and we've spoken out against the use of high-stakes testing for students, for teachers, and for schools. So we're very consistent here.
I wouldn't argue with that, but I would argue with this. Here's the audio that went out in a robocall, very much like you'd see in a political campaign. I want to play just a piece of this. This, of course, is Karen McGee, your boss at NYSUT. Listen to this. If I can get it to play. And here it is. This is the audio.
I'm NYSUT President Karen McGee. This is insanity. The public says flawed state tests should not be used for high-stakes decisions for schools. But Governor Cuomo pushed through his test and punish agenda anyway. We're fighting back. With state tests looming, NYSUT wants you to know that if you are a parent, you have the right to opt your child out of state tests.
All right, it goes on for about a little more than a minute. You're telling me you guys have done robocalls prior to this year on this topic?
No. And what I'm trying to say is this is a response to growing concerns by parents and a real misinformation campaign by the state education department and others. If you listen to what our president, Karen McGee, just said, she says parents have rights. And parents do have the right to make the decision to opt out or any decision in the best interest of their child. And we've put a fact sheet on our website, which is www.nysut.org/testing. And the robocall simply alerts teachers and, of course, the parents who want to go to our website of exactly what the facts are. For example, the state does not have the authority to withhold state aid from districts where more than 5% of the children don't take the test. So that's one of the myths that is out there. The fact sheet seeks to simply set the record straight and to provide parents with information they need so they can make decisions in the best interests of their child.
And I understand, but I keep trying to take you back to the fact that this is really about assessments. You haven't talked about it at all. We're only talking about the tests and parents. What really we're talking about is that they want.
If you look at what a good assessment. First of all, I think we have to ask the question, and I would ask, I would throw this to the listeners in Utica. What's the purpose of testing? If the purpose of testing is just to get a data point so we can punish teachers or punish schools, which is what the governor wants, then I suppose, well, sure, we should just have a curriculum that is just testing, and more testing, and keep feeding the giant testing corporations. But if you look at it the other way, there are, first of all, many ways to assess what's happening in the classroom. You can use portfolios, you can use authentic assessments, you can use quizzes. These problems didn't happen when classroom teachers were writing tests and were using them to measure how their kids were doing, and then using those results, using that information coming back, very much a local process to help inform instruction and better serve students.
I have two other quick questions, and we're talking, by the way, to the spokesperson, Carl Korn, with NYSUT. First of all, it doesn't help your strategy when the other teachers' union in New York is really not going as far as you guys are to endorse opt-out. That doesn't help. So it seems that there is the strategy is disjointed. Secondly, wouldn't you be better off going after the state ed department right now and lobbying the state ed department to reduce the percentage that test scores have when it comes to teacher evaluation. I think that would be key right now. They're going to be making that decision by June.
Brilliant minds think alike. We've been doing that for several years. NYSUT has been lobbying the state education department and the regents and calling for a reduction in state testing. And in fact, it was part of budget negotiations last year. And the legislature agreed with NYSUT and banned fill-in-the-bubble tests for kindergarten, first, and second graders,
right,
because the state wanted to give standardized testing to kindergarten, first, and second graders. And so we successfully lobbied the regents and the legislature to stop that. So that is happening.
So, but now it's all. But you're combining it with the opt-out. What do you think you're going to accomplish? How many students will you need to opt out in order for you feel? I mean, you work in Albany where you see this governor. Do you think this guy, Andrew Cuomo, the emperor of New York, is going to be bowing down to this protest?
Well, I can't. It's difficult to speak for the governor, but I will say this: that state legislators, our senators and assemblymen, listen carefully to their constituents, and when tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of parents take a stand and engage in a little bit of civil disobedience and say, these tests are not in the best interest of my child, these tests aren't helpful to my child, aren't helpful to me, and aren't helpful to my school district, and they vote no, and they say, my child's not going to sit for these tests, then maybe the legislature will take a firmer stand against the governor's test and punish agenda.
The State Ed Department is claiming we're believing that the State Ed Department will decide on percentages and how the assessment will go by June, I believe. Andrew, quick question, and then we'll let Carl Korn go.
So, Mr. Korn, we were talking yesterday briefly when we had initially spoke about the fact that NYSUT's one main goal is to support teachers and parents, whatever they want in the districts, and then hopefully those districts will support whatever the teachers and students want. Now, if it were the case that teachers and students decided, you know what, the testing's a good idea, let's go with it and see what comes of it, would you then support it then?
Absolutely. Well, and that was the statement in the robocall, and that's been our position very clearly for months now.
How could you support it, though? That would still mean that the teacher evaluations could be as high as 50% based on the state scores.
Parents are in the best interest. Parents are in the best position to decide what's in the best interest of their child. And if a parent decides that, I want this information about my child, and I think I want my child to take the test, the teacher is going to support the parent's decision 100% of the time. And the flip side is true. If the parent decides that these tests are inappropriate, unfair, not very useful, and I want my child not to sit for them, I want them to stay home, I want them to be able to read a book, instead of taking this test, then we should support that decision, and school districts should support that decision. That's simply what we're saying, and we're providing the facts and information for parents to make informed choices. And that fact sheet is available on our website at www.nysut.org/testing.
This would be almost as if I was going on my radio show and telling people instead of listen, I just think it'd be a better option for you to listen to another radio station after 9 a.m. I'm going to continue to do my job here, and I'm going to do it. But I think that things that go on after 9 a.m. just aren't appropriate, so you should go and listen to this station instead. You know what would happen to me, Carl? I wouldn't probably make it past that day. Do you advise, though? Are you cautioning teachers and administrators and, well, in this case, it'd be just teachers that you represent. Are you cautioning them that this could be, we're bordering on the line of insubordination here?
Teachers have to be very careful, and this is part of the fact sheet. Teachers have to be careful. They have every right as a parent to decide what's best for their own child, but when they're serving in the role as a teacher, they have to be very careful not to undermine the academic program of their district.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they leave their free speech rights totally at the door. And there is a line there, and that's part of the reason for the fact sheet, is to inform teachers of their obligations and responsibilities.
And finally, I would ask, you don't expect us to believe that this is all about the children. I mean, you're a teachers union. You represent teachers. This is about evaluations, the test scores affecting evaluations. I mean, can you at least admit that?
This is about what's best for children. And
so this is not what's best for teachers. This is what's best for children.
NYSUT has historically been a socially progressive organization that speaks truth to power. And some people don't like it when unions speak truth to power, but there is clearly a problem. There's clearly issues with the governor's test and punish agenda. There are the testing beast is out of control, and we want our students to be well-rounded critical thinkers, and we want classroom time to be spent on what's most important, and that's teaching and learning. And what we have instead is a system that's designed around testing, and more testing for high-stakes purposes for students and for teachers, and that's hurting the classroom. That's hurting public education, and we have an obligation to speak out. And I think the fact that tens of thousands of parents are joining that chorus all over central New York, all over the rest of the state, suggests that this is about future of public education, reclaiming the promise of public education, and wresting what happens in our classrooms away from Pearson and other big corporations, and putting it back in the hands of local principals and local teachers and local communities.
Right. 15 seconds. Give me one quick answer. What percentage would you be okay with of the testing? 30%, 20%?
There is the American Statistical Association has put out a position paper that shows that state standardized tests are not valid, reliable, or accurate for use in teacher evaluations. Tests were never designed for that purpose.
So you're at zero then. You don't feel it should play any role.
No.
Okay.
Tests should inform instruction and help teachers in the classroom.
Got it. All right, Carl Korn. Believe it or not, I agree with you. I don't think the testing should play any role in it, but I'm not sure that I agree with everything that's happening now. We're going to take another opinion on this coming up next. Carl Korn, thanks for your time. I appreciate it, and we'll see what happens next week. It's going to be very interesting.
Have a nice morning.
All right, you too. Next, we'll talk with somebody on the other side. This is Superintendent of Schools at the newly merged Central Valley Academy down in Ilion, Mohawk. Richard Hughes comes up next in 2 minutes. Hold tight. Quick break on WIBX.